Hello, everyone. My name is Jeff Dickinson, aka the Bodacious Cowboy, and I am here with my co-host, Mr. John Brewer. John,
Hey,
how are you?
Jeff. Good. How are you?
I am doing well, man. I know that we've been looking forward to this podcast for some time. We've been chatting about it, and here we are.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, man. This is going to be a brainchild for sure.
It is, and hopefully, over the next several months, that we're going to share some valuable information. And again, it's only options and partial solutions because everybody's perspective is different, of course. But we're going to take this to a different level from way back when. That's the reason why we call it the Old Doghouse Logistics Podcast, because that's what it is. It's about trying to not let history repeat itself from the experience that we had back then that's still relative in today's environment. Isn't that correct?
That's absolutely right. Like we said, we're here to teach new dogs old tricks. So we hope you tune in and enjoy and listen and pick up some of the things that have made us successful in our careers, and you can apply them in your everyday work life and benefit from our experience without having to experience it yourself.
Right. And you know what? I want to squash this coming right out of the hole because, as everybody knows, I used to be a shipper for 37 years. You're still a shipper, but I'm a broker. And no, folks, I am not doing business with John Brewer. All right. So that's not the reason why we are doing this show, because it's not my niche. If I wanted to do business with John, I could, but I don't want to because it's not in my lane. And we're going to talk about that in great detail as the weeks go by, about technology, the innovations that are out there, how we can improve on our daily lives internally, externally, the problems that we've seen, what we've done, what we won't do, and a whole hell of a lot of other things.
Yeah. In addition to that, we're going to be bringing on some rock stars to kind of pick their brain and get their ideas. Those individuals out there who are literally disrupting the supply chain with their innovation and new ideas and the new processes and products. So we want to get them on there as well. So not only our audience can learn, but both Jeff and I can learn as well, because you never stop learning.
No. And if you're not learning every single day, you will be left behind real quick, because it's
Absolutely.
the evolution. Yeah, it's the evolution of logistics. 40 years ago, what we started and saw has really sped up like the speed of light, and it's still evolving. And are we there yet? No. There's still a lot of problems in it that I see. I know you see it as well.
That's right.
And it comes from not having the practical application in the development that I know you and I definitely agree on it. When you really dig in the weeds and you look at the technology and what it's offering and what it's missing, but that all comes with experience. Now, folks out there, we're not know-it-alls. We don't know everything. We know a little about a hell of a lot of things,
That's right.
and and if we don't have the answer, we do have Stump the Dogs every single week that we'll introduce. And we want our audience to ask us questions about that. And we can assure the audience that if we don't have that answer, by due diligence, John and I are going to dig into it and get that answer for you, because this is what the podcast is all about. It's about sharing knowledge and best practices to help you be better than what you are, so that you can level up. And I hope that
Absolutely.
I hope that works.
And in addition to that, if there's a topic you would like to learn about that Jeff and I haven't covered on the show, by all means, we want to hear those too. And we'll pursue those if we don't have the backing that we need, and we'll research it and bring it out on the show, and you can learn along with us. So definitely a mentoring learning forum here, folks.
Yeah. So, John, real quick, for those who don't know who John Brewer is, why don't you tell the folks out there a little bit about your background?
Absolutely. Been in the industry about 3 decades. I've shipped a lot of different things. Started out in shipping mail to post offices, went to diesel engines and parts, aircraft parts, ladies' hair care products. And for the last 17 plus years, I've been shipping food. 10 of that was on the retail side, and a little over 7 right now is food service. So, seen a lot of different things, learned a lot of different things, and moved a lot of freight over the last 3 decades. So, that's kind
Yeah,
of me. That's kind of me in a nutshell.
there you go. So, got to ask this pertinent question. It's always asking me, how did you get involved in logistics?
How did I get involved in logistics? That is a very good question. I do get asked that a lot. Um, there's a mindset out there that you do not choose this industry chooses you. And just like most of the people in this industry, I kind of fell into it. When I was in college, I was majoring in architecture, going to be an architect one day, design buildings, and started, had a real young family and needed to keep the lights on and food on the table. So
Sure.
I jumped into supply chain, actually working as a short haul dispatcher for an asset based carrier in Memphis, Tennessee. You probably remember MS carriers.
Hmm.
Um, Jumped in it there. Was there about a year. Enjoyed it immensely. It was like jumping out of an airplane every day. You come in and everything's on fire, and hopefully, if you worked real hard and had a little luck, by the end of the day, all the fires have been stamped out, only to come back in the next day and they're back on fire again. So, uh, after about a year, I jumped to the shipper side. Back then, it was called traffic, which I think
Oh,
is which I think is still an apropos term because it feels like we're constantly shipping in all kinds of stuff in traffic with all the headaches and heartburn.
sure.
And then been on the shipper side ever since, and enjoy it. I get to build supply chains. I get to stand up distribution systems. A lot of creativity, and then also get to help people. And ultimately, uh, I'm not a first responder or retired military or anything, but I do get to help people, and I enjoy helping people and solving their problems.
Interesting. So, over your career, what did you like most about it? I mean, where did you gravitate towards mostly that you thought was just
I like the strategic side of the business where you start with nothing and you build something.
mm,
And like I said, that can be a supply chain, that can be a distribution network, that could be a carrier pool. It doesn't matter. It's you're kind of leaving your mark on the world in the supply chain industry, and you can say, "Hey, I put that together. I did that," and you can be proud of that. And you know, basically, I love to when people can't tell me I can't do something. I love that. Oh, that can't be done. Oh, you can't do that. Oh, that never works. And I'm like, hold my beer because we're gonna get it
oh
done.
yeah, yeah, it's going to be warm by the time I come and grab it back. But
Exactly. Stick it in the fridge for me.
yeah, there you go, there you go. Yeah, so my background it's really funny. I used to own a roofing company. I don't know if everybody knows that out there, but you do now. And I was working on an old Victorian home that was 3 stories high, and they had like the shingles that are slate shingles. You remember those way back when? And they had things called Yankee gutters, which were old Yankee, old wooden gutters that had pool liners in it. And then they had the copper that came off it. So um, I was working on this house, and it was late in the day, and I was putting gutter guards on it, and they were those plastic things. You've probably seen them, and I was really stupid. So I was dragging it to put it on, and guess what? I stepped on it. And slate and plastic really don't do well together. So I went ice skating on a roof 3 stories up, and I almost went off the roof, and my backhand grabbed a vent pipe coming out of the bathroom that saved me from doing that. Scared the crap out of me. I mean, I'm not really scared of heights, but that really just sent a real ripple through my whole body and mind, saying, you know what, I can't do this anymore. I mean, I was young at the time. Long story short, I sold my company, trucks, everything. I was like, what the hell am I going to do now? So my girlfriend, who's my wife now, this is back in 1980, she saw this advertising for Krups in North America, you know, the German coffee company.
Right.
That's well known. And it was a warehouse operations guy, position, whatever you want to call it, you know, sweep the floors, pack pallets, load the shelves. And I was like, oh, shit, well, all right. Well, I got involved in that, and my boss was a really nice guy. Matter of fact, 44 years later, we're still best of friends, and my old boss was my best man at my wedding. So we got along very well. I just wanted to learn so much stuff from there because I just found it very, very interesting. So when you talk about, you and I have spoken about street smarts and how critical that is compared to college. Now, I know you and I are not against college education by any means, but it's a whole different type of education, learning case studies from books, and then learning what happens on the street by working in the trenches and seeing the real practicality of the operations and what really transpires by being in those trenches and physically making those mechanisms work. And I was just intrigued over that. It's like, well, at a very young age, I was like, I surely don't want to be pushing brooms and sweeping floors and driving forklifts and loading trucks for the next 40 years, you know? So I, like yourself, I always wanted to be on fire. I always wanted to be challenged. I always wanted to learn more than what I was hired for. I always asked what I thought was good questions because I didn't know what a correct question was until my boss at that time kept on correcting me. So I took leaps. I took leap of faith. I took challenges. I went to places that I didn't belong in because I didn't have that background knowledge. And I was on fire, like you said, every day because my head was up my butt and I didn't know what I was doing. And I learned pretty damn quick because I had a lot of good mentors, coaches, and by all means, disciplinarians. If you don't have a disciplinarian in a logistics operation, then you're in the wrong place. I can tell you that right now because there's so much good stuff that can come out of what's that called? Criticism. What's that? That
Constructive criticism.
Constructive criticisms. Yes, John. And that really taught me a lot. And I had a lot of good mentors that I relied on at a very young age. And then, you know, I went to Prentice Hall, Simon and Schuster, Golf and Western, biggest book distributor out there, worked the lines, got into computers, technology when we had these platters and you had these diverter cards that were like these barcoded cards that you put in the middle of a platter. You put the books on there, and the Rapistan would go and divert them all over this 1 million square foot facility to either sortation, LTL, truckload, and then palletize out it went. And it was a 350 foot line, and I became like the line manager there. And then I just moved on from there, and then got involved in Onkyo USA electronics for 10 years, loading tons of trucks, hand stacking the trucks, 2,300 pieces in the hot, you know, hot temperatures, and you know, driving forklifts. I flipped the forklift, by the way. Not a good idea to do that.
No, not a good idea.
I did that, but I also saw death with a forklift overhead going through a kid's head, which started me on the path of, safety. and I got my certifications in safety and OSHA and all of that, and went from a warehouse guy again to assistant manager to a manager, took over my boss's role as he moved up. I'm still very good friends with him too. We go to concerts. So I mean, I was very fortunate to have all these fantastic mentors and coaches over that time. And then I ended up in Jaguar cars, and then went to the mothership of Ford Motor Company and started up the first 4PL operation, Ford Motor Company's history, starting everything from scratch, going in there and literally ripping up processes that were already created the Ford way. And I didn't go in there to administer someone else's creation. I created my own and then mirrored image that and cascaded out to all the other major PDCs throughout the country, traveled a lot, got my ass kicked. I mean, when you work with the Teamsters and the UAW, you get your ass kicked every single day. You get grievances written up against you. You talk about relationships and all of that, and we're going to get into that over the months on that, how critical it is, to get your ass kicked, and then learning how to sell yourself and then sell relationships, because everything is built upon relationships. It helps you grow as an individual, and also solidifies business relationships, personal relationships. And Kevin O'Mara, if you don't know who he is, he's very well known. He hired me by leap of faith, by taking a chance in me. He kicked my ass, man. I love the guy, and I actually thanked him and reached out to him and even put it in a post that I owe my career to him. And I get all like type emotional, and people are like, God, Jeff, come on now. Why are you getting that? Because you don't understand, guys out there. When you see your career and you start this up, and if you're passionate about what you do and you love it and you want to understand it, those kind of things really hit you hard when you're a veteran of this industry.
That's exactly right.
I mean,
exactly right.
If you don't have those type of feelings, you don't have those emotions, the empathy that's built in you by other people, because you learn how to act and how not to act, and it helps you out. And then moving on to Panasonic in North America, $100 million worth of freight, all of that, and then when you look at when I got let go because they lost a lot of freaking money, and I stayed on board with them, I said, what am I going to do next? And then I worked for a local 3PL, and I got on the sales side, and I became a sales executive, account manager, overseeing major big ass accounts, Hitachi and Konica Minolta Medical. I'm talking big ass ones. And it just helped me out, how to deal with shippers, and it, after all that, and Panasonic, and then GenPro, and Snyder National as the Northeast regional operations manager for them, it was over for me. I didn't want to go to corporate anymore. The experience that I had told me that I needed to start something on my own, and here I am today. And I love the opportunity to share some of my knowledge and being involved with so many different things and helping out other podcasts and other people, and especially women in logistics, because they're not recognized the way that they should be. I mean,
right.
we have so many things to talk about on this podcast.
That's exactly right. Supply chain is, anybody who tells you supply chain is a straight path, obviously isn't in supply chain. This industry is a very twisted path, and you don't know from one minute to the next what's going to change and what direction that's going to put you in. But you don't step away from it either. You don't step back from it. You just embrace it. And buddy of mine, Rob Pogue, he always says, embrace the suck.
Yeah.
and that's part of this too. You know, if it was easy, you know, a lot more people would be doing this, but you have to embrace the suck. Just real quick, Jeff, we got some commentary out here. I've been reading it. It looks pretty insightful.
Yeah.
Hunter Woodfin says, "Morning, dogs." Robert Peterson says, "Yo, yo, gentlemen, morning." We had Jeff Radovansky, the rad man of North Texas, chimed in. But we got a couple of posts from Alex Maurer, and one of them was pretty insightful, and I liked it. I liked the way he worded it, so I'm going to read it to the rest of the group here. He goes, "I love that you started by sweeping the floor." This is about Jeff, literally, because it can be figurative too. You know, training is like sweeping the floor. Just because we've done it today doesn't mean we're done forever. The dust comes back, and every day we must sweep. Very insightful, Alex, and thank you for commenting on our inaugural show.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's unfortunate, but literally that's what you really need to do if you want to learn this industry. You got to start from the bottom, and understand the mechanisms of logistics and how they turn and burn every single day. In this industry, you can't sit back and let things happen. You have to be very decisive and make split-second decisions, because depending upon how large the operations is, you could be losing thousands and thousands of dollars, like every single minute and stuff like that. For instance, and you probably heard this, John, too, like a Ford Motor Company, when a line goes down at $10,000 a minute.
That's right.
Oh yeah. When
That's
you
right.
got you got UAW guys that are sitting on their ass, unable to build the car because they're waiting for a thing. Let me tell you something. You want to talk about pressure? That is immense pressure. And I did some wicked things for that by even stopping a Union Pacific train in the middle of a winter and offloading my container onto a roadworthy OTR chassis to get it from Montana into St. Louis at one of their biggest Ford PDCs, like ASAP, or a line was going to go down, and it cost me a steak and a nice bottle of gin. So to do that, but you know, connections are everything in this industry as well, John.
That's exactly right. And one of my stints was with Cummins diesel engines, and their terminology for what you just mentioned was called engine down.
Yep.
And they made all kinds of engines, you know, all the way from Dodge trucks to heavy duty excavators, you know. And if that excavator or the mining equipment was down, you're exactly right. You're losing thousands of dollars per hour. So we had to get creative. You know, we had to move stuff around. And they came out. This is way back when the EPA came out with a new compliance regimen for engines, diesel engines, and Cummins was the first one to the market with a diesel engine, and the competition basically said, "Well, you're just going to shut the country down." And Cummins made a pledge, says if you buy this engine and it breaks down and you take it to our shop, we'll fix it in 24 hours, or we'll rent you a truck for 3 days. And that 24 hours was from the time the truck pulled in, you know, the investigation to figure out what was wrong, time to order the part, ship the part, deliver the part, and put the part back in the truck and get it on the road. So we were running a lot of parts, not a lot of parts, but the parts we did run, we ran out on next flight out. Yeah, counter to counter, and they rented very few trucks that first year, and it was a huge marketing bump for them. So you got that. The aircraft company I worked for, their term was called AOG, and it's aircraft on ground. And again, tens of thousands of dollars an hour. And I remember trying to get a part overseas that was technically hazmat, but it was also an installed part. And I was arguing with an air freight carrier. I won't name them, but everybody knows who they are. And I said, "Well, look, man," I said, "you already got this part installed on your airplane. Why can't you take it and get it to my aircraft over in Europe that's on the ground?"
Yeah.
And the guy, matter of factly, told me, "Sir, there's a difference between equipment and freight." And I'm like, so I didn't win that argument. I tried.
Yep. We had a thing called TCVOR, time critical vehicle off the road. and you had to get that stuff there. You had to be inventive, I would say,
Creative.
inventive, to make things, as I would say, make shit happen and make it happen quick, because when you're in that type of situation, as you mentioned, there's things that you must do. And unfortunately, to your point, those are type of things they don't teach you at school.
That's
They,
exactly right.
they do not teach you that in school. And when you start out, you're going to have butt hurt, man. You will have butt hurt unless you've worked in the trenches and you've done that and you understand how that transition goes. It's just like when I say this, and maybe you've had this kind of chat with some folks when you're at your traffic club, when you're sitting at a bar and somebody says, man, I can't believe that they paid this much for this. And then you go into the saying, well, do you want to know a little bit how this bottle of beer got into your hand? And then you start going through the whole supply chain of where are the ingredients, where was it manufactured, where did it go this? And you just keep on going down the whole length from cradle to grave. And at the end of the conversation, the first thing goes out of their mouth is, holy shit, I didn't know that. Of course you don't know that.
Exactly. Exactly.
You don't know that, but that's the thought process that you have to really think about when you're working in there. You're starting from here. How do I get there?
Right.
Least cost effective way,
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the things, one of the few positive things from COVID is a lot of the world got educated on what exactly it took to get items from point A to point B. And all of a sudden the toilet paper fairy vanished, and they had to go in and try to understand, and it just kind of, I look back over my career and I look back over folks like your career, and I'm like, we've known this stuff all along. I said, you're just finally, 3-4 years ago, you finally woke up, and now you know what a supply chain is. But men and women in this industry have been doing this for so long and been working, I call it behind the green curtain, and making it seamless as much as possible for their customers, so they don't even have to realize or even think about it. It took a pandemic to pull
Yeah,
that green curtain back and show us we couldn't beat the pandemic,
right.
but it's a pandemic. I mean, that you had to have something that big to really rock supply chain.
Oh, and you know what? It's the old adage. It always takes some type of catastrophe to change minds,
That's
you know,
exactly right.
and the
Unfortunately, but it is.
it is. And one of the biggest reason is that they don't look at the what if scenarios, you know. And I always use this as an excellent example. Back in the 50s during the Eisenhower era, he's the one that invented the interstate. And there was a reason for the interstate to be built. No, it wasn't for the ease of getting you from New Jersey to California. And then you've got the odds and the evens in the name of the interstates. It's that he was preparing the United States for war. In case war happened, how could he move mobility wise his troops and the equipment to the front lines quickly enough in order to defend the country? A lot of people don't understand that, but he looked at the what if scenarios. And it's called the war room approach. And it's the same thing that's applied in logistics. And when I say that, a lot of people rush to get freight on board to move it for their clients. And myself, and I know you will agree with this as well, there's a ramp up period. There's an understanding period of that learning, that learning trade of what goes on with that shipper. I want to know how they do that so I can put the right people and assets in the right place at the right time. So when it's go time, we've ironed out all that. And the only way you look at that and understand it is if you have a round table with the carriers you want to bring in, right? You want to have a time frame as far as the ramp up period, what you're going to do at a specific time. And I'm talking big operations here. It's not as easy as just, okay, hey, I got capacity in your area. I'll be over there and I'll pick it up, and then there's no follow up. There's no nothing, there's so many different things that you can do to exceed expectations on the shipper side, but it just doesn't happen by osmosis. You got to plan it out.
That's right.
There's no rush in logistics. There's no finish line in logistics. You don't have to do that because you have to do it. There's a rhyme and reason for everything that you do in logistics.
That's exactly right. It's purposeful.
Yeah, you know what, John Radman. When I was a chemical shipper, we would have a war room discussions to prepare for emergencies such as hurricanes, etc. Exactly, John. You see, John's a vet. John's an old timer. John's an old dog. All right. He's been around for a while. He's one of us. We understand. We speak the same damn language, and it's not that we know it all. It's that we have insights that other generations haven't had that. And it's the same with building technology and those innovations and doing those continuous improvement plans and all of that. That comes from experience, and experience can be learned, but you have to be willing to take the time out to educate yourself. You got to do it every single day. There's a method to this freaking madness. There really is.
There is.
Oh, there you go. Hey, what did I tell you? You got me, John. Yes, thank you, God. There's someone else that has more than me. No, but I've spoken to John before, and that's a guy we should get on the show because he would be very, very
absolutely
coming from a hazmat side. And because John, I don't know if you know this, John, but he's in bulk shipment, non-hazmat, tankers, all that kind of stuff. Been doing it for a while.
Yep, definitely gonna get him on the show, man.
Yeah,
there's a lot of rock stars out there, so I don't think we're going to be at a loss for guests.
No, I don't think so. But I just think that what we're doing, I hope resonates with people out there. Again, and I just want to squash this because there's some people out there that can be ridiculous. This isn't ego-driven, folks. All right, this is something that John and myself and others that have been in the business for a long time have a passion. That's how we lasted. All right, I got chops. I still got hair on my head, so I must have done something right that didn't make me lose it.
What are you trying to say, John? Jeff?
Hey, you got some facial hair. Let it go, and you'll be right with me, my friend. But no, I mean, there's so much pressure and stress in this industry. If we can help you to eliminate that stress and deal with it a lot better, to defend that off so that you can have a balance in your life and in business and know how to juggle the two and be very successful at both sides. That's our end goal. That's what we want to do. Not just share that knowledge, but help you with your life and your business and your families, and because it can eat you up and spit you out. John will tell you, I will tell you, over our careers, we've seen a lot of crashes, a lot of burnouts, what we call, operational death. I mean, it's just, they just couldn't handle it anymore. And they just quit. They just couldn't handle that kind of stuff. And that's where our experience comes from, to help you not to get into that predicament where you feel that way, and how to deal with it a little bit by using, different options that hopefully we'll share with you that you may take into consideration when making decisions, daily decisions.
I tell people all the time, Jeff, if I didn't laugh, I'd cry. So I laugh a lot. You're absolutely right. With our experience, we can give you those options, and we definitely want to mentor the folks out there in the field and hear from them as well. But you need a little humor in this too. So we're probably going to do a little cracking wise on each other, just to, that's what old dogs do. They nip at each other and play, Like, yeah. So I always like using humor. It does keep things light. Not everything in this industry is funny, but there are
No,
some things. But there are some things that are, and keeping it with your team, keeping it light with your team, and just when we got to go, we go.
yep,
But if there's something funny, then we'll point it out. We'll have a nice big chuckle over it, and it keeps the day light. And it does help with that burnout, Jeff. To your point,
oh my God.
because you're exactly 110% right. If you're in this industry and you can't laugh, or you don't listen to mentors out there, you don't have mentors out there, this industry can chew you up and spit you out. It's a hard industry.
It's a,
Um,
it's that's an understatement.
I think
That's a downright understatement there, John. Like we said, we're friends and we can definitely agree to disagree, but man, that's a definite understatement.
I think the only people who have it harder than us are air traffic controllers.
Or doctors, who are doing heart
Yeah,
surgeries and
doctors.
stuff like that, life and death situations. I mean, you talk about steady hand. I mean, you have to have a steady hand in logistics as well, and just real short. And hopefully, this drives you home. You talk about burnout and stress related. 25. Let's see. I was 37. I was 37 at the time. Hothead, know it all. Just had a firehead. I was always hot at everybody. Nobody could do better than me, kind of deal. Until I learned a better way. But back in that day, well over 25 years ago, my blood pressure went to 210 over 130. Right?
Ooh.
Yeah. I was literally ready to blow the hell up. And I said at that day, I was a heavy smoker at that time too. And it was before my daughter was born. And I told her, I said, you know what, you'll never, in the womb, I spoke to her and I said, you know what, you'll never see me smoke again. And at that time, we were able to smoke in our offices, and we had the white tiles on it, which was yellow. It looked like the smog of freaking LA. That's just the way they would work. And I was smoking 4 packs a day. No bullshit. Seriously. And I gave it up, threw it out the window, and never smoked again. But one of the reasons that I got high blood pressures is that I took everything personal.
Yep.
It was my fault. I was responsible for it, and I couldn't shake that off my shoulders. That burden was on my shoulders. And like I said, I did everything. I took the responsibilities of everybody else because I didn't have that trust in that. And it was damaging to my health. And then I came to a conclusion, and I said this in a very good way to myself and my wife. I said, I'm going to stop giving a shit. She goes, what do you mean, man? You're going to lose your freaking job. I'm going to say, no, I'm gonna stop giving a shit in a perfect way where I'm only going to control the controllables. Everything else, I'm going to push by the wayside. I'm going to manage things the way that they're supposed to be managed by prioritizing and then being able to delegate roles to certain people, not micromanaging or anything, but hiring and putting the right people in the right places at the right time. And now my blood pressure is perfect, because it's just like I have thick skin. It takes a lot to get me pissed off now. I mean, a tremendous, because I know it's not worth it. It's not worth my breath. It's not worth my time of day. You know what I mean? It's just like, if you're in that position, you feel that way, that's where you got to find yourself and get to that point in your life. You really do, because you're not going to last. You won't.
That's right. Yeah, it's a dog eat dog world out there, man, and you better be wearing Kevlar underwear.
No. Seriously though, I mean, the takeaway from this pilot, if you will, is that you need to really dive deep within yourself, within your soul, and really find out who the heck you are as a person, as a business person, as a father, as a provider. You really have to dig in there, and it's okay to take you time. or for myself was me time, but to really sit down and think about that and think about it deeply. Uh, what are your positive aspects? What are your negative aspects? What can you work on? What shouldn't you work on? Because it it affects the way you communicate with other people when if you don't do that, because it comes out of you. You'll sound not confident in your abilities. You won't have empathy or anything because you're not thinking clearly, because you're letting everything internalize and letting it affect. Everybody's got personal problems. Everybody's got business problems, but you got to learn how to curtail the emotions.
That's right.
You really do.
That's right.
You deep shit, boy.
Well, Jeff, what do you say we let these people get back to their fires and
Yeah, absolutely.
ask them to join us again next Friday?
Yes.
When we bring some more insightful and dig down into the weeds, as Jeff put it, and be able to share our wisdom and knowledge and help people be more successful at what they do.
Yes, absolutely. I appreciate everybody that joined in. I really thank all the attendees who asked these questions. Please ask more on the next episode. We'll be back here next Friday, hopefully at 11 a.m. So follow us. We'll have more insights for you, more topics. We'll have a true agenda on how we're going to do this. And we appreciate it. We hope everybody has a great weekend. And thanks for watching the Old Dog House Logistics Podcast. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys. Have a good weekend.